Cremation in the Catholic Church. As Catholics, we believe in the resurrection of the body at the end of time. We also understand that the human body is the core of a person's identity. The Catholic Church also states that the body must be treated with respect and laid to rest in a place approved by the Church. While the Catholic Church still recommends burial by burial, cremation is an acceptable alternative. However, the Church strictly forbids the scattering of ashes or keeping ashes at home, said Cardinal Gerhard Müller, prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. By caring for the body, the Church expresses her faith in the resurrection of the body and distances itself from attitudes or rituals that see death as the annihilation of the soul, or a process of reincarnation, or as the union of the soul into the universe. Since 1963, the Catholic Church has allowed the practice of cremation for Catholics, on the condition that the reason for cremation must not be contrary to the teachings of the faith or anti-Catholic faith. In this decade, the practice of cremation has become increasingly popular, especially in America and Europe. Many death service companies offer complete service packages. For business reasons, they accommodate all kinds of motivations, according to the family's request. The reasons for cremation are also increasingly varied for reasons of illness, economic and social, and so on. In addition, there are also those due to a new religious background, which unfortunately often contradicts the faith of the Church. This situation caused the Pontifical Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, on August 15, 2016, to issue another instruction for cremation. The document is entitled Ad Resurgendum Cum Christo on the Burial of the Dead and the Conservation of Ashes for Cremated Bodies. How the Catholic Church views death, corpses and graves. In short, the Catholic faith views death not as the end. With death, life is not ended, but rather changed. Preface to the Soul's 1. The body or body perishes, but the spirit will face God. Death is the gate of eternal life. As the gate of eternal life, the process of death even begins at baptism, because at baptism we are united with the death and resurrection of Christ. Paul calls death the end of the good fight, and after it there is a crown of righteousness in heaven. I Tim 4:7. Death does not separate people from the love of Christ, but rather brings them closer. That is the relational tone in death, called by God returning to the Father's house, entering into eternal rest, entering into eternal life, etc. In short, being called to the resurrection with Christ is the core of the Catholic faith in dealing with death. In this connection, the Catholic Church honors the dead not just as mere remnants of life. Although consisting of body and soul, humans are humans in their unity. In this body, the person and identity of humans are known and alive. This unity is so close that the body is called the temple of God for humans, which makes humans present in this world both as physical beings and spiritual beings. Therefore, when the body has become a corpse, the Church continues to honor it with the proper respect. The Church and friends pray around it. The body is dressed in party clothes. All of these treatments confirm our faith in the day of His resurrection at the end of time. That is faith in the resurrection of the body, that God will raise it at the end of time and reunite it with its spirit to finally enter eternal happiness. Which to choose? Burial or cremation? With this background, the Catholic Church views burial as the most appropriate practice to express Christian faith and its view of death. The grave is seen as a holy place, a place of pilgrimage, a place of prayer, a place where family and friends, even the Church as a community of believers, pray for the salvation of the soul and remember the person with love. The grave is seen as an excellent medium for experiencing faith in the communion of saints, where the Church, which is on pilgrimage in this world, prays and connects itself spiritually and emotionally with its brothers and sisters who have gone before it. The grave is a memory of our own death and our hope for resurrection. What about cremation? Cremation is permitted as long as it is with the same understanding, namely that after death our identity does not disappear. and we await the resurrection of the dead. According to the Catholic Church, cremation itself does not contradict the teachings of the Church, because it does not hinder God's power to raise the dead. The body will indeed be destroyed, whether through ordinary burial or through burning. Man, who came from dust, will return to dust. The resurrection of the body applies to all. It is God's power that will resurrect this body. It is just necessary to pay attention to these two conditions. First, the reason for choosing cremation must not be contrary to the teachings of the Church. This will be explained in the following section. Second, after cremation, the ashes should be buried or stored in a place of storage for ashes approved by the Church. Ashes should not be scattered in nature, whether sea, land or air. Ashes should also not be stored at home, or divided to be used as souvenirs, or made into souvenirs in necklaces, pearls, etc. So once again, the ashes of someone who has died must be treated with respect, namely by being buried in a cemetery, or stored in a storage house. Conflicting reasons. Which are the conflicting reasons related to the practice of cremation of bodies? There are many, some of which are mentioned in the document Ad Resurgendum cum Christo, No. 7. Nihilism, namely the view that death is the end of everything. This understanding views death as the end of everything. There is no life after death, no eternal life, let alone the resurrection of the body. Death is the annihilation of a person. This clearly contradicts our faith. In the past, many cremation practices were motivated by this motivation, as an expression of loss of faith and resistance to faith in the resurrection. Pantheism or naturalism, which views that after death the body reunites with nature or the cosmos. Adherents of this view, influenced by the New Age movement, usually like to scatter the ashes of the deceased in nature. For example, in the sea, in the air, among the coral or under certain plants, with the intention that the person's spirit is absorbed by Mother Earth or the universe. Sometimes people also put ashes in souvenirs, mementos, in jewelry and other objects as memories or like amulets. Conflicting reasons. Which are the conflicting reasons related to the practice of cremation of bodies? There are many, some of which are mentioned in the document Ad Resurgendum cum Christo, No. 7. Nihilism, namely the view that death is the end of everything. This understanding views death as the end of everything. There is no life after death, no eternal life, let alone the resurrection of the body. Death is the annihilation of a person. This clearly contradicts our faith. In the past, many cremation practices were motivated by this motivation, as an expression of loss of faith and resistance to faith in the resurrection. Pantheism or naturalism, which views that after death the body reunites with nature or the cosmos. Adherents of this view, influenced by the New Age movement, usually like to scatter the ashes of the deceased in nature. For example, in the sea, in the air, among the coral or under certain plants, with the intention that the person's spirit is absorbed by Mother Earth or the universe. Sometimes people also put ashes in souvenirs, mementos, in jewelry and other objects as memories or like amulets. The incarnational view, which believes in the cycles of regeneration. After death a person will live again in another form. Cremation is chosen to help speed up the release of the soul from its old body, which is no longer useful. This view exists in Buddhism and Hinduism. The view of death as liberation, as if the spirit is imprisoned in the body, so that death is an event of release from that prison. This view makes the body viewed negatively, like the view of gnosis. In addition to these reasons, there is also a psychological reason, the fear of premature burial. This is because of cases of near-death, where people who are not yet truly dead are buried. Cremation is chosen because even if it happens that the dead person rises, at least the suffering does not last as long as when buried. If cremation is chosen for these reasons, the Church will not provide a sacrament or death service according to Catholic. It's death service for cremation. At the cremation ceremony, the same service is usually held as at a regular funeral. The lowering of the coffin as an irregular funeral is replaced by the entry into the crematorium. However, for practical reasons, this section is placed at the end, so that after that the crematorium is closed. The scattering of flowers can be done after the coffin is placed in the crematorium. Treatment of ashes. The Church forbids people from scattering ashes in the sea, or scattering them on the sea, hills, rocks, or under trees, etc. Instead, ashes must be placed in a holy place, namely buried in an official church cemetery, or in a place for storing ashes that is specifically dedicated for that purpose by the legitimate church authority. Ashes should not be kept at home to avoid various kinds of deviations. This respectful treatment is intended so that the deceased is not forgotten in the prayers of the family of God, and to avoid various kinds of deviations that could occur only for special, very serious reasons. Taking into account the consideration of the bishop's conference, can permission be given by the bishop to store ashes in a residence? But it is absolutely forbidden for the ashes to be distributed or placed in jewelry. Conclusion. Cremation is permitted. Choosing cremation on the basis of faith in death, eternal life, and the hope of the resurrection must not be abandoned or denied. Likewise, respect for the body and the memory of the person. Therefore, the treatment of ashes must also be in the Catholic spirit, namely by burying them in a holy place, a church or a special place.